There's no doubt that a lot is changing in the world of entertainment, and clearly we are seeing films go direct to digital. It started off with a new trend with Amazon Prime announcing a string of films, and now Netflix is doing that as well. And the latest, the one that we are reporting on is Gunjan Saxena, The Kargil Girl, which is of course a co-production between Dharma and Z Studios. Now we have Apoorva Mehta from Dharma joining us on ET Now. Thanks for making the time, Apoorva. Good to have you with us, and congratulations on this deal that you've been able to strike with Netflix. But I understand it took a while to come about, didn't it?
Yes, so thank you, Oza, for having me. The deal took some amount of time. I think it was the first direct-to-digital with Netflix, so it took a little bit of a time in that sense because there were two producers involved in that. But yeah, it all worked out well eventually, and I think we're really excited about the film coming on Netflix, premiering on Netflix.
So if you were to walk me through the largest takeaways, because we seem to be on a new learning curve when it comes to really doing deals directly to OTT. Now, to be able to take out theaters from the entire equation, it means that you have to rethink and reimagine the way business is done in the world of entertainment and Hindi films. So how do you approach it, considering that you've been able to crack this deal once?
So I think we've actually never intended for this. We never intended to make this film for the digital screening first. It was always intended for theatrical. Theatrical is our first love. We have a separate company called Dramatic actually that makes films exclusively for Netflix for the digital platform. We released a film called Guilty first. So it was not like, it's not a conscientious choice to kind of, this film was not intended that way. It was intended for theatrical release, but we're obviously now in a very unique situation, this pandemic, which is obviously intensifying month on month. And, you know, whenever you start a film, you have a certain calculation on your return on investment in terms of based on what you think the film will do and how much you're going to earn from the film and all of that. And there were many stakeholders. There is no clarity in terms of when we can come back to the cinemas. You know, we are hoping that we come back very soon. And it kind of made business sense to unlock value in this particular film, and you know, because eventually the money gets plowed back into the business for making films for the theaters. You know, that is our first love, and that will never change. You know, this was really an exception in that sense.
The current situation, the kind of situation that you find yourself in, particularly at Dharma, with the films that were under production, tell us about where it stands, what you stand to lose.
So I think, you don't stand to lose anything because in that sense, but yes, you carry the cost, you carry the burden of the cost of capital, because when you have value locked into a film and the release for that film moves a bit ahead than planned, you're obviously losing the value that you have locked in terms of realizing that value later, you know. So for us, it made sense. This film, Gunjan, was essentially scheduled to release in April, which of course couldn't happen because of the pandemic. And it kind of made sense for us to unlock that value and plow it back into our business, which is again making films for the theaters. And we have 2 or 3 other films which are in the middle of various stages of production, and those will hopefully all come on the theater as and when things open up. And once we complete making them, this was a complete product. It was ready, so it really made sense to unlock the value at this point.
But Apoorva, the way the films we've known have been made, it's by producers who've raised loans, and they have gone ahead with those budgets, big, small, whatever it is. Now, to be able to take a call on whether one should hold on at this point in time or then go the OTT route immediately, that's a tough call to make. How difficult is that situation that will make you decide one way or the other?
I mean, you're absolutely right. It's a very tough choice. Like I said, theater is our first love, you know, and this film was made for the theater. So it was a difficult decision in that sense. But I think you have to be pragmatic at every point and then see what's working business-wise for all the stakeholders. You know, it's not only you. There are so many people who have invested time in making this film happen. There are partners. There are producers. So you've got to kind of take the decision that is correct in the longer term. And of course, you know, you're chasing a certain return on investment, and once you've received that and more, you know, it really made a lot of business sense for us to follow this path. But like I said, I mean, this is, you know, we are still going to continue making films for the theaters, and that's going to continue with all the films that are still to be released.
So how does it change your content and growth plans? Because digital production, digital content is something that you're already working on even before COVID hit. Even ads films is something that you wanted to grow on. But now, how does it change?
Sorry, I lost you. I couldn't hear the question.
Apoorva, I was saying that, Apoorva, now is the time that COVID situation has struck and it has disturbed everything that was going on. But even before it struck, you had your plans, you had your growth plans, you had digital content that you were planning. There were ad films that you were planning to make. How does all of that change over at Dharma with the crisis that we're facing?
So I think everyone is reinventing how they work, and I think we are no exception to that. We'll also have to reinvent the way we work, because obviously you are now facing a very unique situation which you've never faced before. Our business is a close contact business. You have lots of people working together on a set creatively to make a film or a TV show happen. So obviously we are now building in those guidelines. We're working around to ensure that we work in a way that works for everybody, and it keeps everybody's safety is paramount. Be it every individual's on the set. So you're building in all those checks and safety measures, which is all in the process right now. So whenever we start filming over the next couple of months, we'll probably put in all these systems in place, and then ensure that everyone is comfortable while they're working.
Your audio is not coming through very clearly. Yeah. So I'm going to try asking that question one more time, Apoorva, because I lost you in the middle.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
No, so Apoorva, a lot is changing because of the COVID situation, but you had your plans before COVID struck. You were planning to go big on digital. It's an opportunity, some would say, now that the situation presents itself. Ad films is something else that you are trying to get your foothold into. All those plans, do they change? Do they stand? How is Dharma going to reinvent itself, reimagine itself?
So I think we are very. I think one thing that pandemic has shown us is the amount of content that people are consuming in this period. You keep hearing of people talking about all the films they're watching, the shows they're watching. So I think we're very blessed to be in an industry where there is extra for content, whether it's on theaters or whether it's on the digital platform. So I think in that sense, we're very pleased that we are in this phase in entertainment where there is huge demand. Now, of course, with the pandemic, one has to now change the way you work. Like every industry is going to do that. You're going to have to put in more safety balances, checks when you're filming going forward, whether the show is for a digital platform or the films for a theater. Those checks remain the same. So you've got to build in all those checks so that people who are working are safe, because we are a close contact business. So we have to be all the more careful. And I think all of us are now working towards the ministry has issued guidelines, and we are building on those guidelines and doing what we can so that once we start filming, everyone is secure, comfortable, and safe.
But how do the economics change because of all of this, both on the creative side and the production side? When you're looking at just content creation, how have the economics changed?
I think, like I said, see, for us, the economics haven't changed in that sense, because we've always had a separate company that was making content for the digital platform, So you obviously understand that when you're making content for the digital platform, there is a certain economics you work with, because the show or the film has to be efficient for the platform when they purchase it. So you obviously have to work within those constraints. A theatrical release allows you to bet on the success on theater and thereafter build on that success through the other platforms where it comes up. So you're able to take far more liberties when you are making a film for the theatrical platform, but when you're working on the digital platform, it's pretty much it's a collaborative process, and you take those calls based on what works for the platform and you. So I think they're both very different in that sense. They both have a different way of working, but they both are coexisting beautifully, because, like I said, people, we are in a country where people know how to do things, see cricket and watch films. So you're very, very comfortable in terms of the fact that you'll always have people wanting to watch good, compelling content, no matter which platform it's on.
Do you see a big shift happening in terms of producers who are smaller, who made smaller films, perhaps sitting on those films, and they've taken big loans? I don't know whether they have been able to crack deals with some of these OTT players, but in case they are not, then the nature of films that present themselves to audiences, the kind of changes that we are seeing, and we saw some very successful films in the recent past before COVID struck. By that nature, do we see changes? Because for a production house, it can be one story, but for small producers, it can be quite another.
No, absolutely, you're right. I mean, it's a really difficult time, and your heart goes out to those small producers who are hoping for a theatrical release, and they're working on limited resources and don't have the ability to hold on. It is a very challenging time. I mean, like it is for many businesses, I like to believe, but also for this specifically, because you're right. I mean, there is, we are fortunate that we are able to kind of balance ourselves, because we have so many films at different stages in production, and we have a rotation that is continuous. But it is very difficult. You're right, and a lot of people will, of course, want to try and get a OTT release to unlock the value in the film. So you're right about that. It is difficult for some of them, and I really hope that all of them manage to kind of find a path that works for them at the earliest.
Production-wise, because there are restrictions, and this is what I was asking you, because you create a film, or at least conceptualize a film, with a certain milieu in mind, a certain space in mind. But now, if there are going to be stronger restrictions in Maharashtra, as opposed to, say, in the South, maybe a Ramoji studio, which I'm hearing that a producer would opt to go and shoot over there, then that changes the economics again. Is that a likely situation? Because Mumbai, having been the hub, may lose out because of the strictness of what has been put down in those guidelines.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you're right. I mean, there are strict guidelines in terms of working with lesser number of people, building in more checks, building in more safety measures. So all of that is definitely going to add to some additional cost in the film. And we'll all, once you all have arrived and understood what that cost is, we'll have to build it into the cost of the project and ensure that we remove that cost from somewhere else within the project, so that eventually we're able to work within the same cost base that we had planned, at least for the films that are on floor and currently in production. And for the new ones, then you start building that cost in, and you realign. You have to remove the money from somewhere, because eventually the film is not going to do more business because you're spending more on it. That math never holds good. So you have to kind of reassess, and you're right, you'll have to kind of reevaluate, and there will be a slight change, at least in what you can do over the next 6 to 8 months, in terms of what you're allowed. So storytelling will be slightly altered to meet those working conditions.
What about the tentpole films? What happens? What do you see for their future going ahead? Dharma has produced a fair share of them. You have great experience in putting them out, but no one has experience in dealing with a COVID situation. So how do you see that playing out from here?
I think that the theaters are going to come back with a bigger bang than ever. I mean, this is a temporary phase, and this is a phase which will last for 4 to 6 months. But I'm sure one is hopeful that there'll be some cure that will be out there, or the graph of infections comes down automatically, or plateaus to a level that you're comfortable living with it, like you're living with many other kind of illnesses at this point in time, be it typhoid or pneumonia or anything else, which is also our daily lives, and we're all living with that. So I think one is very hope. You cannot replicate the success. You cannot replicate the experience of a film in a theater, because, like I said, in India specifically, it's not a casual outing; it's a social experience, and that experience can never be replicated. So I don't doubt at all that it will be great going forward. But yes, there is a speed breaker for the next few months until things kind of settle down, and we all find some way to combat this.
So what are conversations like from the creative and the business side of things between you and Karan Johar by way of dealing with now the crisis that you have, and how to kind of mitigate your risks, as it were?
So, I think we're very careful. I think for us, we're very clear that we would now like to invest. We won't want to venture out very quickly into the high budget films immediately. We would like to focus on the mid to the moderate side budget films for the theatrical release. And of course, you've got to kind of keep in mind that you're going to be working with a lesser crew. You're going to be working on more stringent conditions. So you have to be a little bit more mindful in terms of the creative bit of the films, in terms of your song and dance action. That will require a certain amount of rethinking, rediscovering, reinventing. So that process is on right now. I think all of us are learning. The idea is to first write, come up with a concept that works, and then kind of essentially work around it to adapt it to what's doable over the next 6 to 8 months.
And do you see a palpable change in the size of the budgets as well?
I think most definitely. I think you won't find large budget films taking off immediately because everyone's concerned. You don't know what happens. God forbid, you might have another lockdown after a few months if suddenly there's a spurt in things. So people will be careful. They will tread slowly. I mean, like I said, it's a hiccup. It's an aberration which will get resolved over 6 to 8 months. One has faith and belief in all good things coming back to life. So, I mean, I think it's an aberration for 6 to 8 months, and after that things will be fine. I'm pretty confident.
Yes. And besides now, what we are seeing in Gunjan Saxena, and of course the release is still to happen on Netflix, but are you in conversation for more films, and which of those are you in conversation for with OTTs?
So we are not in conversation for any other films right now because we have 2 or 3 other films which are in various stages of production, but those are at those still need filming to be done, those still need to be completed. So we are not in conversation for those. And we are very sure that we want to go for a theatrical release on those films. Like I said, we have a different division that's making films for the OTT platform. So that division, that company is doing that quite successfully. So, we are playing both the games.
Right. So you're keeping it fairly balanced by way of the kind of content that you're putting out over there. So you think that this is only going to be a phenomenon that will last for films that are in the can, that are produced, and that's why you need to take an immediate call? Is that how it's going to be?
I think so. A lot of the films that are ready, and when you have producers who want to unlock value for various reasons, it kind of makes sense to do that because, like I said, the theater is the first love, but it's difficult right now. It's beyond your control. You have every state and every country internationally, and every country internationally also that has to open up. So it will take some time for everything to settle down in the world. So yes, this is a great time to unlock your own value, because everyone's got a ROI to look into, they've got costs to look into. And but like I said, films are being made by many people across both platforms. So I think both will subsist once all this is over.
And as you try to unlock that value, Apoorva, will you be taking a hit as well? Because theatrical contributions are the highest for any film. And if you're not going to go down that route, yes, you're going to save on P&A, but at the end of the day, it is still going to be a hit, isn't it?
Not at all. In fact, we've got far better than what we expected. When we make films for so many years, you have a sense of what this film will perform. You have a certain benchmark that, okay, your theatrical range, your theatrical range is so much, your satellite is so much, your digital value would be so much, your music value would be so much. So if you're getting all of that value encompassed into one platform who's paying it to you, so we are in fact quite pleased with the value we've got. It's far larger and healthier than what we expected the film to do. Of course, if a film suddenly performs extraordinarily well and breaks through, then that's a different issue. But that happens one in 10 films. So I think there's no haircutting at all. We would never do that. I would hold on. I mean, we would never compromise on our return. We're very clear on that. So I think for us, it's been an extraordinary experience, both commercially and in terms of visibility on that platform. So we're very happy on both fronts.
Well, like you said, we hope this is a temporary blip and we return to our old winning ways again with theatrical releases. Apoorva, it's such a pleasure talking to you, and good luck with all the releases in the future, both to you and to Karan Johar.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Thanks, Apoorva. That was very good. Thank you. Such a pleasure. And I'm glad you could make the time. Huh?
No, my pleasure. Take care. Thank you.
See you soon. Bye.